Okay, so welcome to the new module in which we are going to discuss about pattern printing. Let's start with the very first question, which is on printing a square. Okay, what is a square? You know, square has both its length and breadth as equal, right? In context of coding, we'll say it's a square when it has both the number of rows and the number of columns as equal. Okay, for example, suppose you have to print this pattern. Let me print the pattern for you. And pattern printing questions will be like this only. They will give you some pattern to be printed and you have to write code for that. So the very first pattern that we're gonna print is, first let me write the heading, pattern printing, and within that first we're gonna be discussing how to print a square pattern. Correct. So this is the pattern that we have to print. Okay, as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 columns, and how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagine this as a table, as an Excel table where there are 5 rows and 5 columns. Simple. Okay. So first, let's try to do it with a nested loop so that we can understand the use case of loops. And then I'll tell you a very short trick using which you can do this just with one loop as well. Okay. Very few people understand that code, but we'll try to do it. Okay. First, we'll do it using nested loop. By the way, in interviews, if they are giving you this question, they are actually looking for you to solve this using nested loops because they are trying to check your knowledge on nested loops. Okay? So please solve it using nested loops. But rather than memorizing, let's try to understand. So tell me, how many rows are there? N rows are there. Okay. So let's say n equals to 5. So there are 5 rows. Let's say for I in range n. By the way, when I say for I in range n, it will run n times. Why? Because it is starting from 0 till n minus 1. And 0 to n minus 1 is n times. Okay, perfect. And then I'll simply say star, print star. And if I end this with nothing, end with the nothing means the next print statement will run beside it. The next print statement will run beside it, right? It will not go to the new line. If I just run this much code, see what happens. It will actually print one row for me, correct? Star, 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 star. 5 times star, one beside another. Simple. Okay. But what I have to do, I have to repeat this process how many times? I have to repeat this process how many times? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, or n times. So I hope you're getting the point. I'll just copy this code. See, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for you guys. And I'll say, do this n times. For here, I'll write for I in range n, repeat this code n times. I'll put it here and let's put j, some other variable j. So for I in range n, for j in range n, so this will print one row and you are printing n such rows. So let's run this code, but something weird will happen. Okay, so what has happened is that after printing 5 stars, it is going to the next iteration, but because you have not written new line, it is printing all the 5 stars in the same line. So what do you have to do? You have to just simply write print here. Okay, because by default print is having new line as end. So what it is saying is, once you are done with this loop, go to the statement, go to the new line, and again repeat the same process. Okay. I run this now, exactly what we were looking for. So this is how you need to solve any pattern printing question using nested loops. You just have to understand what is happening in rows, what is happening in columns, and just repeat that process. Now, as I promised you that I'll tell you a way which is simpler than nested loops. Okay. So actually, there is a concept of string multiplication. Actually, it's not multiplication, it's repetition. Okay. So if I print dollar and after that string, I write into 5. Understand, dollar into 5 is outside. Okay, multiplication by 5 is outside the string. So that simply means replicate this string 5 times, one beside another. Okay. So if I extend this idea to print star and then multiply it by 5, it will print actually 5 stars, star, 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 right? So this is how I can actually write this code using string multiplication. And what do I need to do? I just need to repeat this 5 times or n times. Okay. So let's say n equals to 4, 5. So for I in range n, I will simply say print star multiplied by 5 or n for that matter. In this case, it's n, right? So if they ask you specifically, we print this pattern using only one loop, this is how you can use the concept of string repetition. And if you run this, voila, exact same output. Here we are doing it using 2 loops, which is the standard approach, and this is a shortcut approach. Okay, so I hope you have understood. Please revise this and then we can move to the next pattern.